Welcome to the Reimagine podcast. Each week, give yourself 30 minutes and meet the people working hard to create the future of insurance today.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Reimagine podcast. Laura, good to see you in your regular location.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be back in my kitchen, meeting with you today virtually, of course.
Yeah, and we have a really interesting show today. Do you want to introduce our guests?
Sure. So happy to introduce Megan Duty, VP of Technology and Project Delivery at Puritan Life. And we have Deirdre Woodruff, Senior VP at Puritan Life as well. So we're excited about the conversation, and thank you both for being here with us today.
Yeah, happy to be here. Laura.
Megan, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about the work you do.
Sure, absolutely. So like you said, I'm the VP at Puritan Life over technology project delivery. That's a huge mouthful, but it basically means the technology platform and also the PMO or our light version of it. I've been with Puritan about 6 years now in the financial services industry for the better part of 20 years. The first part of my life within that industry was spent in the public sector. Believe it or not, insurance is kind of an accident for me through a series of acquisitions. I ended up with the Puritan crew and definitely love what I do there for sure.
That's awesome. And how about Deirdre?
Yeah, I'm a Senior Vice President at Puritan Life over operations, vendors, kind of a lot of day-to-day stuff. I have been in insurance. Actually, insurance is not accidental to me. It's kind of a family business. And I've been in insurance for the last 20 years. And I've been with Puritan Life since we purchased it. Actually, I was part of the team that purchased it from a group out in Texas in 2014. So quite a while.
Yeah, well, excellent. Let's just tell us a little bit about, start if you've got a very interesting startup, however you call it, Canvas Annuity. But first, tell us about Puritan Life. Who is Puritan? You bought Puritan, and what are you doing with the company itself?
Yeah, well, Puritan was kind of a sleepy little life insurance company when we purchased it. We sold mainly whole life, some final expense, and it came with a kind of a neat. It had a sister company that was a distribution company, and did a great job selling our life insurance and final expense products. So we had a good relationship with them, and just kind of thought we would grow the business, organically and also through acquisitions. And we did that for the first few years. As probably everybody that works in insurance knows, the life insurance products these days are a little bit difficult to keep up with from a compliance, and reserves are always changing, and mortality tables and everything. And so, as part of this, we shifted our focus from life insurance to annuities. In 2018, we launched a MYGA product and then a fixed index annuity, and our sister, and they're not our sister anymore, but our sales group out of Texas does a great job at selling those. So we also partner with Aetna and sell some MedSup insurance, and we have a little bit of group insurance. We kind of dabble in a lot of different things, but Canvas is a really exciting new venture for us.
Okay, so tell us, what is Canvas, and what's the problem you're trying to solve?
Sure. I'll grab that one, Deirdre. So Canvas is a direct-to-consumer fixed annuity. It's a MYGA, and really what we are looking to offer is something that fits this, age of total customer empowerment, right? So people are self-sufficient. They're really great at self-serving on information. They want to be autonomous in managing their finances. They like the security and the confidence that comes from managing, that kind of business themselves. And we thought that the simpleness of a fixed MYGA made it a really good fit for that type of a consumer. And so it's an online offering that we launched in 2020.
That's
well,
awesome.
Excellent. And it's an interesting product. We're clearly passionate about it. It's I guess the question is, why don't people buy more of these? It's if you're over 55, you got money sitting in a money market, and it's earning like nothing, why would you not want to put it Megan, why isn't it, and Deirdre, why isn't it just a slam dunk to get people to move money from the money market into this multi-year guaranteed annuity?
I have a guess.
You want to say?
You're just going to have all the real reasons why, all of the barriers, so to speak. But I'll tell you what I really believe the real reason is that they don't know enough about it. And when we've seen, when we put information in front of people, especially through digital marketing, the sales have been we've been able to put on business relatively easily. And so I would venture to say, my firm belief is that people just don't have enough information about how valuable these products can be as part of their retirement portfolio. And once they know, knowing is half the battle, and the purchase follows on pretty easily from there. Deirdre, I'll let you speak about the other friction that we've seen that's more traditional, the reasons you'll get from people. But I really think it's just that they don't know. It's not out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I was looking at Wink's data for sales of MYGAs, and in the third quarter of 2020, which is the most recent data that's out right now, there were $17 billion of MYGA sales, which was up almost 70% over the third quarter of 2019. So, I think it's up and coming. I think it's going to happen. I think people are realizing how simple this product can be, and that there's really no reason, especially as you near retirement, not to consider a MYGA as a portion of your retirement savings that's safe, secure, guaranteed growth. And so I think people will start to say, why do I have my money in a bank CD? Why do I have my money in a money market account? I should go this other direction.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned D2C earlier for the direct-to-consumer. What has this last year taught you? Obviously, things have shifted, and it all looks different. I'm seeing these smiles. So what have you learned over the last year?
Well, let me start with a little known fact about Puritan. At one time, we were owned by the owner of Drive Time, primary shareholder of Carvana. And Carvana, I'm sure you've seen the car vending machines throughout the United States. They're really cool, gimmicky billboards, if you will. And they've been extremely disruptive on the car sales side in the direct-to-consumer channel. And a lot of our team was actually sourced from that family of companies. So we have a background in direct to consumer. We have a background in being disruptive on the direct to consumer side. So we came in with a lot of that knowledge. And but I'll tell you, it's a whole different ballgame in insurance. And so from my perspective, what did you learn? It's how to take that knowledge and apply it to the insurance products. There's a special balance or delicateness around the way we sell these, and building confidence and trust is a huge factor that we had to learn to contend with as well. And then I'd say this last year was really a lesson in prioritization and changing those, not being afraid to change those prioritizations midstream. So Canvas was initially slated to be a pilot program. We were going to launch it in a very small way to sort of test the waters in late 2020. But early 2020, when COVID hit, our current focus was on a new product to recruit IMOs. And obviously you can see there are some restrictions that would be, we saw coming with the whole pandemic, as far as us being able to travel and agents being able to get inside, homes and meet with customers. So we took Canvas, pivoted it to a full product launch, and set it for June rather than the end of the year. And so, and we're able to successfully hit those timelines, get the product out, and do a lot of learning post-launch as well.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, we have learned, both Megan and I have learned so much about really just everything from, marketing and digital marketing, a lot of things we had no idea about before. We started our marketing journey by putting our name really big up on billboards, and, we were thrilled to drive down the road and see our name, and we thought that was great, but that didn't end up being, a great source, at least at this time for us, for leads, and certainly not for conversions. And so we've learned a lot along the way from the marketing standpoint. And then, we kind of had to do a little bit of everything. So when you hire a marketing organization to sell your product, you're getting a lot of kind of institutional marketing knowledge of what people are looking for on the street. And that changes, maybe monthly or semi-annually based on what's going on in the market and in the world. And we've kind of had to do all of that sourcing ourselves in-house. So it's been great, but a lot of learning.
Well, and I think one of the startups in our incubator actually helped you. Is that right? I think our friend Craig and I think helped your effort. So there's a lot of cross-pollination with all of these efforts. I know Craig has done some really interesting things with his prior company in the direct-to-consumer. So I think the more we can collectively learn, the more the market grows for the product. We had a 5-part series on retirement, what the world landscape would look like post-COVID. I wish we'd had both of you there. It would have been a really good discussion. We had Reen Horgan, who's the CEO of Kinder, and on. She's doing some really interesting things with an app for retirement planning. I guess my question is this going to permanently change how seniors manage their money?
Well, I think it should permanently change some facets of how they, purchase products. I think ultimately, being able to go online and find information that they're looking for themselves, feel empowered, like Megan said before, to make a purchase. That's a really big change from what we've seen before, where the market itself has kind of said, you're not, and really even regulators as well, people are not smart enough to understand, these products. They're too difficult. They're too complicated. And in some cases they are. And I've even heard, sales advisors say, I think that in some cases we're making these products way too complicated. It just doesn't make sense. They can get a lot of the benefits out of these products in a much more pared down version, and not feel at the end of the day like, I really have no idea what I just bought. So I think this is a first step in that direction for annuities. Obviously, there are other people that have gone there on the life insurance side. We've seen in renters insurance and car insurance, we've seen really good examples of people being super successful there. But usually those tend to have a younger crowd. And so we've been really encouraged to see that people in the generation nearing retirement are, willing and able to purchase this way.
Yep. And I think we have COVID to thank to some degree for the higher adoption, especially in the 55 plus age group, with online purchasing and online financial management. I think when faced with no other alternatives, people who were maybe previously adverse to managing their finances online or seeking information about their finances online found that to be a platform that they were actually rather amicable to. And I don't see that as a change that will reverse anytime in the near future. I definitely think that's permanent.
Yeah, we've said people are, they have to learn to buy groceries online, and this is, adding an annuity to your cart is not that much different. It can be, a really simple process and take about the same amount of time.
Yeah, our online app takes about 7 minutes to finish, and it takes my mom, a good hour and a half to grocery shop online. So it's faster even.
And there's no carbon footprint. I think it's great.
Exactly.
No, yeah, and Deirdre, you said something interesting. We've heard from a lot of people, a lot of different places. We just make these products so complicated. I'm of the belief that some of these complicated products are just they don't translate well on the web. However, if you got a product on the web, will a good product in the web translate well for an advisor explaining this in person with a customer?
Well, I think that a MYGA has certainly always been a product. You see cross sales of MYGAs with Medicare supplement insurance and final expense. I think it's kind of one of those that a lot of agents have in their portfolio. They know how to sell it. It can be pretty uncomplicated. Now, even MYGAs, I have seen people complicate. Yep. There's all sorts of withdrawal options that make it, okay, I have to pick this rider, and then when I die, I'm going to get my full benefit, but not if I, don't have this withdrawal option, or I can't get my RMDs out, or, all kinds of things that make it less consumer friendly. I think one of the things that we've tried to do is say, not only is the product going to be simple, it's going to be extremely consumer friendly. So we don't want people calling up and saying, oh my gosh, something happened. I had to check into a nursing home, go to a nursing home, and I can't get my money out, or I have to pay these huge surrender charges. We say, okay, we're going to put a waiver of surrender charges rider on there so you don't have to deal with that. And that's, you don't have to select that. It just comes with it. We're going to say you can take 10% out each year, even in the first year. And then we have our flex fund that allows you to get all of your money back at any time. You can fully surrender and not pay any surrender charges. So, I think we have created something that's simple and also consumer friendly, and that's easy to sell because it's the right product for a lot of people.
Right. And that was really the crux from the start, is that the product needed to be simple and consumer friendly. I think a lot of times when we think of an online experience, we dive in focused on the UX or the technology side and making sure that it's frictionless and, that it's a friendly online experience. But that's in no way possible without a product that's a right fit for that. So that was really our approach from the start, is that it had to start at the product, and the product had to be right for the platform. And then the platform could be, as graceful and beautiful as we wanted it to be, because we had the right thing on it.
Do you think the next big thing in the industry is education or better education tools? You talked about these products can be complex, or people might not understand, yet there's a desire from the consumer to want to know enough to be able to kind of guide their own journey to a degree. Is that the next big thing, is better education options to really empower these consumers?
I think that's here now. I don't think we can wait to have that be the next thing. At least from the Canvas perspective, shortly after launch, we created a learning center. You mentioned Craig. He's been a part of the content generation on that side, because we really think that in order for someone to be self-sufficient, we have to give enough information for them to do so. And so we look at that as something that is a now thing, in conjunction with these direct-to-consumer products. As the market there and that, distribution channel expands, I'm hoping to see the education expand alongside of it. But it's definitely something that, they're hand in hand. If we want to offer this to consumers, we have to give them a way to make it viable for them.
Yeah, and the thing I think is that there are always going to be complicated products entering the market. And I think that because people have tended to see, or companies have tended to see, product development as a way to differentiate themselves from other companies. Hey, we need to get out there. We can't just be spreadsheeted on a rate. So we have to differentiate ourselves by making a more complicated or more flashy product. And I think that has been done sometimes to the detriment of the consumer. And so, part of the thing, we can't educate consumers on every single aspect of every product that's ever going to come up. And there's always going to be this pressure on companies to come up with something new and creative and different. I think one of the things that we've done with Canvas is say the new creative and different thing that we're going to do is not by complicating the product and making it flashy. It's by simplifying the product and making the process of purchasing and the education of that product really, integrated into what somebody would do in their everyday life. This product should work for almost everybody. So I think there's always, you can never educate enough, because it's always going to be changing, and the landscape will be changing. Hopefully other people that will take the lead as well. I think that integrating technology into insurance, it's been a long time coming, and I think it's only going to go more of this direction. But I think that it's so difficult for some insurance companies to make that transition, and so overwhelming that they kind of use all of that creativity on the product development side.
Yeah. Another important piece there that I'd really like to see be the next thing in education is that we made a conscious decision to keep our learning content focused. And so what I've seen a lot of companies do, and really with the best of intentions, is try to untangle information about all annuities ever. And that's just so much information. And it's actually, it's like, it's actually more confusing than when you didn't have any information at all, from my perspective. And so I'd really like to see the next thing for companies be to focus to have a clear enough voice that what's relevant to their customers is available, and it's not available, in a confusing ocean of information. It's very focused, and they make conscious choices to deliver it that way.
Yeah, we actually did a survey of retirement age buyers. This must have been a year and a half ago at this point, and sort of said, okay, what are your problems you're really wrestling with? And then second part was, well, how do you actually want to hear about the solutions? Podcasts, white papers. It was interesting. Courses was ranked really, really high. So we made a decision to kind of go big with a course platform. So we've got this. We have an online platform. I don't know, Laura. We must have 9 courses this time. And Megan, it was kind of driven from 2 aspects. One is our call center told us, hey team, we're getting all these calls where we have to re-educate the customers on what they bought, and we even have calls from agents asking for basic explanations because all these products, Deirdre, you say they're all complicated, and everybody just changed. This bolt turns left and this one turns right on the other product. How do you keep them straight? So, yep. Megan, we did some really technical products on, how fixed annuities work. We do have one on MYGAs. You should take them and give us a grade on it. Tell us what you think.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I quite honestly expected we would get more utilization as we moved kind of up the topic from not just how the product works to some of the broader retirement concepts, but I'm kind of stunned in terms of how many people are just naturally coming in and signing up for these courses every month to learn how does a market value adjustment work. Go figure.
That's fantastic. That's great.
So I agree with you. Let me ask you kind of along the lines of, what did you learn through the pandemic? Insurance has always been a left brain and right brain sale. Let's get my sides of brain right. The right side. Yeah, let's see. Right side. Yeah, right. Let's see. Right side's analytic. Your right side's analytic. Show me the illustrations. Show me the rates. I want to calculate the interest rate. But then the end is, do I really trust them? What have you learned about how hard it is to get people over the age of 55 to trust you, a company like us, relatively unknown, with, a good chunk of their savings?
I'm happy to take it, or you can, Megan, whatever you want.
You can go first and then I'll go.
I think that we knew from the beginning that, putting a new company online and instead of going just through Puritan Life, which had some name recognition, but even so, we're selling to a pretty limited portion of the country there. So, but to take a new company and say, hey, trust us with a significant amount of your retirement savings would be difficult. So we spent a lot of the time at the beginning in our marketing campaign saying, we're going to have 2 things. One, we're going to have a really attractive rate that we think is going to at least get you interested enough to come find out about us. And then second of all, we're going to have non-commissioned licensed agents. They are ready to answer your questions. They'll spend as much time as you want. And sometimes we do get people who, in fact, I have spoken with some of them for over an hour. And, people have a lot of really good questions. And so we have kind of the 2 components of do it yourself online with our learning center. And then also we're happy to talk to you with our agents. And, Puritan Life obviously has a B++, not obviously, but has a B++ rating. So we do have some third party kind of, make people feel better that somebody else has examined us other than just us saying, don't worry, it's fine. But, the education piece and the willingness, I think, to have that conversation for as long as people need to have it is there. One time we got what I thought were fantastic questions from somebody, and I spent an afternoon and wrote back a letter trying to outline, hey, here's the answer. Those were unbelievable questions. Just for somebody out there, it's not like they were in insurance and they just had just wonderful questions. And so I thought, I'm going to take some time and really answer these. And the response we got back was really, really positive. And so I think, especially while we're small, taking the time to really connect with people is what makes all the difference.
Yeah, I think, there's clearly a lot. people think you need to scale. You get a lot of questions when you do something new. Well, how do you scale? Get it right. Get a few customers, right? Find out what works. Then worry about that.
Exactly. And I think the two things we've done really well with the online experience, one of the biggest things we can do to increase trust is to make it a comfortable experience for people. So when you first land on our online application, the very first thing customers are exposed to is our information security policy, our privacy practices. They can either proceed to the application if they don't want to read it, or they can click around and read until they're satisfied that this is a secure experience. We use several well-known vendors for our integration. So on the ID management side, we use LexisNexis. We use Plaid, which is something if you've ever put your bank account into a website, you're familiar with that little modal that pops up and it looks the same to everybody. So there's some familiarity there. We use DocuSign for our e-signature. Again, it's that familiar UI or experience on the customer side. And so as they're going through it, if they have doubts about our legitimacy, as they're seeing these tools that they've experienced on other online sites pop up, their comfort level increases. And the second thing we've done really well is we're what I like to call a little big shop. So we are online, right? And we're available all the time. You could buy in the middle of the night in your pajamas. You could buy first thing Monday morning in your business suit. It doesn't matter. But when you click on our, About Us page, you'll see two agents, Devin and Nicole. And if you call, either Devin or Nicole will answer the phone. And so it's a very comforting experience when you see what you get what you see, basically. And, like Deirdre was saying, if you write in some really good questions, you may actually get a response from the senior VP at this point, even though we're able to offer rates that are competitive with some of the biggest carriers. And so that little big shop angle has really worked for us thus far.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the topics we focused on within that forum series that Paul had mentioned is getting people to know, like, and trust, and it's comforting. I'm going to go check out your website right after this and dig around some more and take a look to see what also we can take away from that, because in the same token, it's good to, as a consumer, expect something and then actually receive it, and then to feel good about doing it, I think is really powerful. And it's interesting that sometimes it's something as, I'll say simple, even though there's a lot of pieces to that equation. It's something as simple as that is really going to push a buying decision one way or the other. Because if I was on a site that's new to me, I'm slightly uncomfortable. Is that legitimate? I don't know. I'm going to jump ship and go somewhere else. So I think it's wise that you keep that in mind. And I guess to the point of consumer comfort, is there anything that's surprised you? Is there anything that's been requested or that you've noticed that people have flocked towards more than you thought they would?
I'll tell you one surprise that we had is we took our typical average premium and we divided it by 5 and said, this is what we'll think, we think people will trust us with online, because we really thought that we would get smaller premium amounts. It's a single pay, it's a lot to put in at once. We have smaller required premiums for each product. We were really going into this expecting people to cautiously move forward with smaller amounts of money until we were more well known. And our average premiums are actually coming in about 5x that. And so we've consistently, and so we very rarely see a smaller policy. Now, I'm sure a lot of that is driven by the fantastic rate that you get on it. But, that was surprising to us, as we thought we would have to be in existence for longer. We really thought it was a time thing and a notoriety thing before people would trust us with those higher premium amounts. And I think, when they came to our site and they found that it was very straightforward and they could get all of the information they were looking for, and they got what they were seeing, that they trusted us with those higher amounts of premiums right away.
Well, I think the grand online experiment that you're doing and others are doing, I think is really going to turn the industry on its head. And a lot of the axioms that everybody lived by, it just this challenges them, right? Like, you're not as well known as us. Well, most of these companies that have, quote, big names, most people don't know who they are. I think people in the industry overestimate the value of that brand name consistently. And the other is, like, for instance, ratings. We did the same survey with people saying, well, What would you value more, high AM Best ratings or 5-star ratings with a Trustpilot or Google? And guess what? They were equal.
Yep, and they say both. I want both
Right.
things because this is the ultimate age of consumer empowerment. And they say not only do you have to be financially strong, but you also better look good to your customers. There's high expectations there that I think we ought to meet.
So what does the future bring? Let's fast forward 2 or 3 years. Fixed index annuities, are those going to be sold online?
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think we could go that there. I think there's a lot of companion products to a MYGA that, we might go in that direction of. When you were asking what's surprising, I think one of the things that this will show my naivety a little bit with the online process, but one of the things that was surprising to me is I thought, once we launch, then we'll just be working on the, customer service side on the back like that. We won't have to do much more on the front end. And we are making tweaks to the website. It changes. I mean, all the time, we're meeting all the time about like, how can we improve it? How can we make it better? And not just little things, but big things. So I think what's next is we're going to continue to what I'll call perfect. It will never be perfect, but what we're doing right now, because I think that there's still a long ways to go. But I also think that should get us to the point where there's other things that can be sold on this platform that aren't currently.
Yep. And Deirdre, you made the point that reminded me of something else we've learned along the way, and that's to constantly take the pulse. So we are constantly asking, how is it going? Our ops and our technology team meet twice a week in person, and we say to the agents, what have you heard from customers? And then the agents say to us, what's going on the technology side? We have input that comes from business partners. We have input that comes from our administrative partners, and we're constantly pulling that into our development cycles and literally deploying a couple of times a week. And so, in July when we launched, we put something in place that didn't exist before, and we've just constantly iterated. I know that can be a little buzzy. People say, oh, we do constant iterations and we're an agile shop and we have continuous deployment, but it takes effort, right? It takes the conversations in between. It's pulling in all those feedbacks from literally every single source we could find, synthesizing that, putting it into enhancements, and then getting those delivered in a timely manner. And that's really, I think, if I were to look back at the Canvas website in July, it's almost embarrassing at this point. No, okay, we did a pretty good job getting it out there, but it's a whole different animal that we have out right now, and it's because we are having those conversations, pulling it in, and getting it back out. We're just constantly asking, how's it going? How are we doing?
Well, listen,
luckily Megan has a great team that's willing to keep going on that and perfecting what they've done before. They don't get frustrated with, hey, we're making this change now.
Yeah, so we very carefully source that. And so we don't hire for just a what, like what can we do? We hire for a who. Who are you? Can you embrace that, momentum? Are you up for change? Is that exciting or is that stressful? And we've really carefully sourced for that so that we can keep the momentum going.
Yeah, well, we're just about the end of the time. This was terrific. By the way, your website's great. I've been there and kind of watched it, over the last 6 months. I think you're doing a great job. Good design, good UX, and looks like I like the message, the feeling that kind of pops out. So kudos on a number of fronts. So, Laura, what you always have a very tough final question.
I do. Well, and I'm super interested for the answers today because it's clear there's obviously passion, there's excitement, you care about what you're doing. So I love to ask the question, what is your why? Why do you wake up every morning and go into, an office or go into this work setting and do what you do?
Well, my why is heavily tied to technology and the progress we make through innovation. And it's to be able to create something where there was nothing before. That's completely, I'm almost like an adrenaline junkie for that. It's so thrilling to me. I love to be able, when someone says to me, oh, we don't do it that way, I love to be able to say, we don't do it that way yet. And then, make it happen and get us going in the direction that makes the most sense when it makes the most sense to do so.
Yeah, and I think, for me, I've worked, like I said, I have a background in insurance, but also I have a million family members in insurance. And so it's just felt like kind of in my blood growing up. I always say, my first chores were like separating premium payments from their payment thing and like making sure the envelopes, what I mainly did was make sure the envelopes were empty. And then, if I had any, I had to separate them. And that was like when I was 5.
So Deirdre, you were living
like it's just kind of in my blood, and it's been really fun to see. For a long time, I think there was just a lot of stagnancy in the industry, and I think that's changing a lot now. So taking something that I used to say, like, people, what do you do? Well, I'm in insurance, and people like, ooh, like I don't really want to talk to you anymore. How interesting can that be? To where I think it's a really exciting thing. It's kind of a new frontier of what's traditionally been a little bit less than exciting of a business. And really what it does is provide safety and security for people, at any stage of life. There's a product for you. And so I think bringing that to more people is exciting.
Yeah, that's exciting and sexy, and I don't see why we don't recognize it as such.
We'll start today.
Yeah,
exactly. We certainly do as well. So, hey, listen, Deirdre, Megan, thanks so much for having you on here. Laura, this was great. And look, good luck. How should people want to check out your website? They want to buy one of your products. Where did they go?
Yep, canvasannuity.com.
Okay, excellent. We'll pop it in the show notes. Terrific. Listen, love to have you back and hear how your stories of progress. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We want to especially thank today's sponsors, Launch and Symetra.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information about this company and other great startups at imagine.nfg.com.